Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Zillia, and let's talk about episode 7 of In Spectre. Now, before I get into this episode review, I do need to mention I've only seen episode 1 and this episode of the series. So episode 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 I haven't seen. Therefore, if it seems like I'm lost or clueless about some characters or some information, like say for example, we learned something in this episode that links back to something that happened in another episode and we're like, well, that makes sense now. Then I won't get that because I've only seen episode 1. So bear with me. But apart from all that, let's just get into it. So, there's this police lady that looks very much like the lady that Koro used to date. They basically left him because she had another job lined up and she moved away. So she became a policewoman. Interesting. Because it does become apparent to me by the end of this episode that it is in fact her, because it says that they used to date. I don't think it's another lady because of the flashback. So it's quite interesting that she became a police officer. Whether or not that was her intended job choice, who knows? But it's nice to see that she's actually doing something pretty decent with her life. To me, as someone who hasn't seen the other episodes and seen the connection that this character would have had with the character known as Tadra, I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's T-E-R-A-G-A. The guy who was killed by the Steel Lady. Now, this is shown through her dialogue and through her character's expression and body language, as this all indicates some form of sadness or guilt. And just judging by the information that we see from this clip at the beginning of this episode, it is clear to me that she does have deep feelings for him, and maybe she actually liked him on a, flirtatious level. That's possible. She might want to get into another relationship. Speaking of relationships, we then go to see Kotick, the main protagonist, and Koro discussing their take on the situation. And this is where I started off being a bit confused, because they started talking about this stilled lady. And I don't really know who she is. And supposedly she killed someone who I, again, didn't know who it was. And then Saki arrives. So the police lady actually arrives. And anyway, seeing the two characters, Koro and Kotick, basically interacting was really nice, as it basically lets me know that these two characters grow closer as the story continues after episode 1. Which I know is kind of obvious because it's based on like a love story between these two characters. But after hearing that Koro ate 2 yokai, and he kind of said it pretty casually, like he ate a lot of flesh. Like in episode 1 at the end, he goes, I ate 2 yokai, as much of it as I could. That being the flesh. And knowing that Kotick is the goddess of like knowledge, which the yokai kind of look up to, kind of had me a bit worried about things getting a bit rocky between these two characters with episodes going forward. And that might be the case in episodes 2 and 3. But seeing that 7 episodes on and they're, not sharing a hotel room together, but they're living quite close together and they seem quite flirtatious. They're going out due to the dialogue that I read. As well as the fact is, Koro's buying her chocolates, so that's always a good sign. Makes me happy. Right then, so Saki enters and the chat with Koro and Kotick, it finally takes off. I finally start understanding who the Steel Lady actually is. She's the figure that you see in the background with the purple hair and the kind of blacked out face that kind of made me go, this series looks like it's pretty interesting. I might watch it. And honestly, I started actually appreciating this part a little bit more because it explains it very well. And it appears that the more people that pray or believe in ghosts or spirits, the more powerful they become. And this is a problem because for the team, they potentially have a situation where multiple people could get killed or murdered by this Steel Lady. And that in turn would create more fear surrounding that character, thus making her become more powerful and more of a threat and kind of making the outcome less favorable for our heroes, which would obviously be a very bad situation. So this segment was actually really cool. It was really nice because it explained everything in a way that someone like myself, who doesn't really know a lot, is able to kind of understand the situation and catch up to a point where I'm not completely stumbling through the dark. And honestly, I can only just say I appreciate doing that. I know who the Still Lady is. Probably a bit of a spoiler, but hey. I will go back and watch the other episodes in the meantime. And, you know, it explains not why he was killed, but it explains the lore about how the ghosts and the yokai can kind of become more powerful and why she might actually be doing it. Maybe she's got like some sort of revenge tactic or some sort of... Maybe she just wants to be human again or noticed again. Who knows? But the explanation, the visual effects, they all kind of help mesh together to help me get a much clearer understanding and even a logical sense behind what's going on. So thanks for that. So the bulk of this episode was really all about finding a way to divert the truth away from the Still Lady and create a fictional culprit to prevent her from growing stronger and to kind of make the general public believe it was something else that killed this guy. Because this guy that got murdered was actually no ordinary chump. He was someone who was, I think they said karate or judo for like the Olympics. So he must be a pretty strong opponent in terms of putting up a good fight. And the fact that he was easily killed without a struggle would lead the public to think, oh mate, this must be the Still Lady that's rumoured going around. Thus, rumours grow and grow, and they become even more powerful, thus creating a powerful ghost. So that's why they want to divert the attention away from her. Now, the reason why I like this is because it shows that the characters present are actually pretty smart. Kotiko is meant to be the goddess of knowledge. I think it's knowledge. Was it wisdom? Knowledge. And she's able to kind of calculate and use that knowledge in terms to come up with a strategy. It shows that she's struggling, which means the situation is pretty dire, and it's very kind of complex and specific. So I like the fact that she's actually struggling. Like for me, my one big fear with this show is that with her being like all knowledgeable and everything, that she might be a bit overpowered and a bit broken. This is not the case. I'm pretty happy. Now, Koro, he's actually pretty level-headed and seems almost scary in terms of how calm he actually is. Like, okay, I find out that he's immortal, and he has this weird power where he can kind of create or find the right outcome. I don't understand that too much, but I guess as explained earlier on. So, I should be caught up with that soon. But he's kind of like way too chilled out for the situation. Like, he might die, and he just doesn't care. I don't know, maybe he's died so many times. And, was it Saki, the other female that's present? She actually does seem like she's quite level-headed, and I do appreciate that. Like, when I first saw her character in episode 1, I honestly thought she might be kind of, not a money grabber, but she might be just one of those anime female characters that are just like, oh, I'm just with the main character because I want to be important. But no, she's actually a cop, police officer, lady. So she's well respected and she's well knowledgeable. And I like the fact this episode does actually back that up for me. So from that perspective, all around, pretty decent. Now, the visual representation of how they kind of come up with a way to kind of combat this situation and scenario, I thought was brilliant. I love it. The fact that they started off with Kotiko having like one little cube, and then Koro saying, well, can't we just create multiple layers and entities and add it all together to create something that's a bit more robust and more stable? That's just paraphrasing, but that's kind of the gist of what he was saying. And seeing the visual representation of one cube combining into loads, making like a 3D cube with multiple layers, for me, that was great visual representation, and I loved the way that they expressed that. In my personal opinion, I thought that was a great move to use when looking at an animation feature. So, to keep it nice and brief, overall, I actually thought this episode was pretty good. It was more of a build-up episode, but it did a good job explaining things and showing off, the smarts and the ways that the characters can handle a dire situation without actually needing any action involved. And sometimes that's okay. We don't know what Kotiko's plan is, even though she said that she's thought of it. She falls straight to sleep afterwards. Classic, giving us filler time to kind of pad out the series, I suppose. But, you know, after all that thinking, she probably deserves a bit of a rest. Now, I like the interactions between Saki and Koro at the end. It felt like a bit of an awkward, typical ex-partner talking relationship. Not relationship, but kind of vibe. So, I don't know if any of you have ever been in a situation where you've gone out with someone and you've had to talk to them again. It's always very awkward. There's always that weird kind of feeling in the air that you're just kind of like, am I meant to be doing this? I don't really know. And honestly, I got that vibe. I might be the only one, but if I am, then I guess that's just my take on the episode. But there's still that kind of awkwardness between the two characters, and I like that. It's pretty realistic. And we actually get the reveal of Koro's cousin. Now, this was actually a bit of a shock, considering I didn't think we would ever get this, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But this is what she looks like. Now, I get the fact she's frail, because she's always in hospital. But I don't get the whole beauty thing. Saki says that, like, you know, she's happy that Kotoko and Koro are together. And honestly, I'm happy they're together. But she also goes, but your cousin is like 100% your type. And I'm like, what? Really? Given the personal choice, I would say that Kotoko is way more cuter than this lady. This lady looks like that she should be dead already. Maybe she is. However, we're probably going to be getting a whole episode dedicated to her character and why she is in hospital. Because obviously we need time to allow Kotoko to rest before the big fight. Because that's obviously going to happen soon. So again, sorry if this review sounds a bit uninformed from my point of view. Like, say, you know, like I said, maybe I haven't connected all the dots. Maybe I haven't kind of caught up with everything and I missed one or two things. But overall, I thought that this was a good watch, and I will be going back and watching the previous episodes and giving you my thoughts on those episodes. So maybe if I kind of do find a connection between this episode and something that's happened in previous ones, I'll update this review or I'll just add it to my episode 8 review. I think that might be the best way to go. And that's only if I find anything worth mentioning. So, I'm excited for next week's episode because we're going to learn more about a character that's been shrouded in mystery since episode 1. And we should hopefully be moving towards the grand finale sometime soon. I can't see this series going any further than 12 episodes based on the rate that this show has gone so far. This episode was a bit of a slower episode, but that's fine. However, it looks like we might be getting a final battle soon. I think going 24 episodes might be dragging out for too long unless a even bigger boss comes up, or the team fail and the Steel Lady gets even more powerful and much more of a handful. So, I'm going to go off and watch episodes 2 to 6, and I guess I shall see you all next time. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me, and until next time, bye.